Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A quick reminder of our top stories now. One person dies as fire guts over 400 shops at the motor spare part market in Obosi, Anambra State. Residents of Kunben village in Mangu local government area of Plateau State count their losses after the killing of 12 persons by cattle rustlers on Wednesday night. Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board suspends the National Identification Number requirement for its UTME examination till 2021 following criticisms over the tedious registration process. And calls for justice spreads after admission by Iran that it unintentionally shut down Ukrainian jetliner that crashed near Tehran, killing 176 people. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories and others. Do subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV and Roku. We now continue with the story of the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME. Shortly after that announcement, the students would no longer need the NIMC identity card for the examination this year. Our correspondent made a stop at one of the UTME registration centres, where we discovered that the crowd, which had always gathered there before now, suddenly disappeared.
This was the situation at the Alausa Enrollment Center before the announcement. A seemingly uncontrollable crowd of prospective candidates just in to register for the national identity number. But they won't be needing it, at least not for now, until next year. Shortly after, calm returns to the same center. The crowd is no more. A few candidates who had arrived early for the registration speak on the development.
When we got here, we see that the people are less. Then as we are waiting, through the phone, I got the notice that they will no longer need it for this jam.
I was at the registration already before I was aware that it was being suspended. So I had no choice but to do the registration. Despite
the suspension, the services of the National Identity Management Commission is still available.
What we are doing in Lagos is to be proactive so that we don't wait till the last minute to begin to map out strategies to enroll applicants. So we are calling on all Nigerians, especially those who live in Lagos, to avail themselves of the opportunity now, so that they won't rush at the last minute against 2021 own. So for us, we are still enrolling irrespective of the suspension, because a lot of these candidates, or some of them rather, will still come back to write JAM next year. Because of the suspension, we will be opening for business normally between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday to Friday. Saturday and Sunday, for now, we will not be able to say much because it has been suspended.
This service is also extended to other centers in the state.
In spite of the suspension, a lot of JAM candidates and other Nigerians that want to register are still there. Even as at 2 o'clock before I came in here to the state office, at Ifelodun, LCDA, at Oshodi local government, and some other centers, Ojo, they turned out well.
With the NIN registration for the UTME suspended, candidates would now resort to the previous system. This might have put to rest the crowd problem, but it also serves as a warning to prospective candidates to take advantage of the postponement by registering ahead of the 2021 deadline.
Moving on to other stories, besides being the seat of the government, Abuja is known for its expansive infrastructure and sprawling properties. However, the high number of unoccupied houses in the nation's capital is a cause of concern, as many residents say that they cannot afford the rent. Our next report looks at the rising spate of unoccupied houses in Abuja.
Abuja is known for her sprawling estates, and there are so many of them. Every morning, civil servants from middle-level cadre and their counterparts in the private sector struggle through traffic like this one to get to work. The reason is that getting a decent accommodation within the city center is beyond their means, so many of them resort to satellite towns like Kubwa, Gwagwalada, Maraba, Kuje, Karu, Lugbe, Nyanya, and others. The distance between these towns and the main city where the workers report for work ranges from 20 to 70 kilometers. Michael Martins has just gained employment into the Federal Civil Service and he wants to settle down, but his monthly take-home pay is 68,000 naira. Houses around the city center are way above his earnings, while those in the satellite towns are quite affordable for him.
The vacant houses are caused by corruption. Few Nigerians have cornered the commonwealth of this great country. And what are we doing about it? When you come to Abuja, you see people living in Masaka, people living in Kishingoro, people living in some villages that you cannot even pronounce their name out very well, you'll be wondering. And every morning you see heavy odors along all those suburbs because the people have to come to the city in the name of earning their daily bread.
When you look at the difficulty it poses to these people who cannot get adequate, affordable housing, it's huge. A lot of people you see walking in Abuja every day, they don't sleep inside Abuja. And so in the morning, when you go to the entry routes into Abuja, you see traffic gridlocks.
According to the Federal Capital Territory Administration, the housing deficit for the nation's capital hovers around 1.7 and 2 million, and at least 600 abandoned buildings have been identified by the authorities, most of them located in Gwarimpa, Wuse, Garki, Maitama, Asokoro, and Apo.
Those who are hot more with this housing challenge are the civil servants, because they have a time frame they must be at work, and the time frame they can't leave work at. And by the time they go home tired, they come back tired the next day, their productivity is at very low ebb. So government, for that purpose alone, government should begin to revisit the mass housing policy in the FCT.
We are proposing to the Federal Executive Council if they can come in and acquire some of these properties, and then maybe as way of solving the housing deficit of the country, giving it out to staff and other Nigerians.
While the FCT authorities are making moves to take over the properties, the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission is initiating investigation into the ownership of the unoccupied houses in the city.
In Nasarawa State, at least 5 persons have been confirmed killed in an accident along the Akwanga-Lafia Highway this morning. The State Police Commissioner, Mr. Bola Longe, says that the accident occurred as a result of a collision between a commercial vehicle and another said to belong to the Makodi office of the Department of Petroleum Resources. Those injured were taken to the Federal Medical Center, Kefi, for treatment. Moving on to other stories, the thoughts of having a free, fair and credible elections is the desire of many electorates in Nigeria. But most elections conducted in the recent past have left a trail of criticisms, as some observer groups believe that the outcomes of those elections did not reflect the will of the people. Our next report focuses on what some leaders of political pressure groups, as well as the electoral umpires, say should be done to make future elections credible.
Nigeria runs a 4-year cycle of general elections where the president, state governors and federal and state legislators are elected into office. The 2019 general election is the most recent in this cycle. Although it will take another 3 years before the conduct of another general election in 2023, there are several staggered elections that INEC will be conducting across some states before then. Some leaders of political pressure groups believe that there is urgent need to clean up the electoral system to guarantee the credibility of future elections.
A lot of the alterations focused on getting an increased use of electronics, get an increased use of technology in conducting elections. Even the process of collation and transmission of results were all included in the amendments that were proposed. This president needs to realize that this country needs electoral reform. what has been proposed is what could help to trigger huge improvements in the electoral process, and he needs to drive it, he needs to push it.
As we talk about technology, yes, we need to increase technology, but we also have to be very mindful and very careful of the limits of technology, because technology is not the be-all and is-all for our electoral process. No, it isn't. And in this era of hacks, interference, you want to be very, very careful around deploying technology for electronic voting.
At a meeting with Election Security Committee on Friday, the INEC chairman also reiterated his determination to push for electoral reforms ahead of the next general elections.
The Commission is aware of the imperative of reform, of which the review of the electoral legal framework is fundamental. We are working with the National Assembly and all stakeholders in this regard. One critical area of concern is the prosecution of electoral offenders. We shall vigorously pursue the establishment of the Electoral Offences Commission and Tribunal.
According to the police, over 128 suspected electoral offenders were arrested during the 2019 general election. 58 of this number are high-profile individuals. While such arrests should be commended, it is the number of those convicted at the end of the day that truly serve as deterrent for electoral fraud.
In Katsina State, the state government has launched the second phase of the stock route demarcation as part of measures to ensure trans-border movements and bring sustainable and lasting peace between farmers and herders. The stock routes are designed to cover 14 local government areas in 70 days with a total distance of 1,141 kilometers.
There was insecurity in the state. When this government comes, there was insecurity. And if you look at insecurity on which involves farmers or herdsmen, it started from this blockage of stock routes. If stock routes are blocked by farmers, the cattle riders will have no place to pass, and also the transborder movements will not be successful. This exercise is covering 14 local governments.
When the news at 10 returns, Nigeria's headline inflation seen higher at 12.10% in December 2019, in the latest projections by financial derivatives company. Stay with us.